Welcome back. Time for Media Watch. I have a Twitter account, Marco in F24. James Creedon has a Twitter account. What's yours?
At James Creedon F24. God, I almost forgot for a second.
Nicolas Sarkozy has one, but he hasn't been tweeting on it, has he? Who has been tweeting for him?
Maybe it's a reflection of him not doing too well in the polls, so he's like, oh, I'll just draft in the lady friend / wife / first lady, Carla Bruni, and see if she can do any better for me. So she has been tweeting on his official account. So what that basically means, this is a little microblogging website for anyone who doesn't know what Twitter is yet. And so she's saying, I'll just momentarily borrow my husband's account to say hello to all of his dear followers and thank you for your support, Carla. It's not very sweet.
That's not nice.
And then she did exactly the same thing on Facebook. She was like, oh, I'm just passing through the campaign headquarters and I'm just momentarily going to borrow my husband's account to say hello and thank all of his, thank you for all of his support on Facebook. Thank you for your involvement. There are so many of you at his side. He often speaks to me about his friends on Facebook. I know that your loyalty affects him or touches him, Carla. So there you go. I mean, the thing is, it's coming across as something that's sort of spontaneous. Oh, I'm just passing through, so I just said I'd write a little message on Facebook, but clearly it was the PR people, the communications people who were like, Carla.
Well, she's doing that. Who's got the baby? You know,
huh?
Who's looking after the baby?
I don't know. Maybe she's tweeting in with one hand and holding the baby with the other. Now take a look at this, right? Because it became a thing on Twitter. You know the way these hashtags, which is a way of organising. So it's j'emprunte le compte de mon mari.
I borrow my husband's account.
Hashtag borrowing my husband's account too, and it's in order to get the movers van for the 6th of May. So people basically, you know,
that's when he loses. They're saying
that's exactly it to move him out. So it's people taking what they see as a little, you know, a bit of a communications exercise and mocking it basically. So there you go. You can't get away with anything these days. You're going to be the butt of a joke on Twitter at some point or other.
Okay, at James Creedon. Is that what it's called? Yours?
James Creedon. Okay, that's it. God knows what you're going to unleash.
All I know is that he's got far more followers than I have, and I'm envious. You know, what can I say?
There you go.
Okay, his next one will tell you why he's got so many followers. A good story, this next one. Go on. What is it?
All right, well, it's the 2012 International Boring Film Festival. Now,
Boring Film Festival.
There you go. That's the word.
Le Festival International de Film Chiant.
De Film Chiant. That's exactly
which is rude in French. We're not going to translate it, but
that's
it's rude.
That's the word there,
Chiant,
blasted across the screen. And so they've got loads and loads of films, but the common thread between them all is that they're a little bit boring. Right?
Okay,
that's the idea.
They are judged boring, or they.
Well, actually, you see, again, another communications exercise, because the guy who set it up, and I think we have some pictures of him in a second, he sort of did this to make people talk about it. And what are we doing? We're talking about it. So it obviously kind of worked. And his idea is, you know, films nowadays, they have to be entertaining, right?
Is this the man himself?
That's him there. That's Mr. Emmanuel Germont, who is the creator of the Boring Film Festival 2012 down in Marseille, just down the coast from Cannes, where things are a little bit more glitzy. And he said, look, you know, films should also be about self-expression. They should be about, you know, you should have the freedom to say what you want, do what you want, you know, without these restrictions. And the risk is that it can be seen as boring. But for film buffs, for people who are prepared to take the risk of looking at something boring, then this is a film festival.
What's the most boring film you've ever seen, James?
Oh, gosh.
The most boring film I ever saw was called Kanal. Sure. It was Polish. It was about the a terrible time in Polish history, this sort of the Warsaw Ghetto, but it was a terribly difficult film to watch and effectively quite boring.
In the coverage of this, they were talking about a film that Andy Warhol did once, where for about 2 hours it was just the camera was trained on one fixed spot and nothing happened.
How about that film about David Beckham just sleeping? That must be really boring, mustn't it? You know?
There's lots of options. Now, I'll tell you some of the films that are in this festival. 4 short films by a guy called Mohamed Bourouissa. One shows a prisoner, one shows a cigarette salesman, and the idea is that they're given the camera and they just film their daily lives. And so I suppose, you know, these could be kind of art house, realistic kind of movies.
What's your favourite film,
they could be a bit boring.
What's your favourite film?
God, I'm not very good at remembering films. I forget films.
Spartacus by Stanley Kubrick.
I actually can't think. You've put me on the spot and I can't think of something.
I like putting you on the spot. Tintin by Spielberg.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not, no.
I can tell you the films that are not my favourites.
Not even Captain Haddock, who reminds me of my uncle.
Gosh, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's a favourite film either. I'm sorry.
Okay, give me your next story, sir.
Right, the final story. Now, this is, it sounds like a Bond movie, speaking of movies.
Great. I like the Bond
Diary of a Rose Spy. But it's actually a blog from a socialist guy who's inside François Hollande's headquarters. Now, the thing is, Hollande is well ahead in the polls. It looks like it's a safe bet at this point to say he's going to win, right? But the thing is, once in the Fifth Republic ever, the socialists won the presidential election with François Mitterrand back in 1989. 1981. So they don't believe in themselves. And what he's pointing out in this blog is that no matter how good the news is, if there's one piece of bad news, everyone gets depressed or panics or gets really nervous. And he says this particular guy, who is an anonymous blogger from inside the headquarters of the Socialist Party campaign, says that he spends his time being a therapist to other people working at the headquarters, trying to reassure them that, look, things are looking pretty good. And he said it's the opposite on the right wing, where Nicolas Sarkozy is not doing well in the polls, yet the slightest bit of good news makes them all euphoric as if they've taken LSD. That's what he said. So he's pointing out that people don't really believe themselves in the Socialist Party. They think that the country is profoundly right wing and is going to stay that way, even though the polls say the Socialists will win.
And if they've taken LSD, they could borrow Sarkozy's account and tweet or Facebook for him. Right. And that would be funny.
Get some psychedelic tweets.
James, our time is up, sadly.
All right, well, there
but
you
I'm
go.
sure we could fill so much more time. James Creedon, as ever, with Media Watch. Stay with us, we've got more to come here on France 24.